On Toyota.com.
He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. And here we are on a Friday, and this is another one of the days of gratitude here on SuperTalk. We had Dr. Nicholas Conger yesterday, an infectious disease doctor from Memorial, and Brandy Westman from Ocean Springs, who's a nurse practitioner who went to New York, volunteered to go to New York and work in a hospital up there during the height of the pandemic. I shared a lot of sayings about gratitude yesterday, but a couple that really kind of stuck out is this, are these. Practicing gratitude and being grateful are the keys to a happier life. Gratitude turns what we have into enough. I love that one because it's a reminder that here we are in this moment. Buildings don't make a community, the people do. And during COVID, we had an opportunity to be reminded what in life is important. The people around us, our friends, our family, our coworkers. And this last one here, it's not happiness that brings gratitude. It's gratitude that brings happiness. And we're in this moment now where we're looking back. We did some brainstorming about who do we want to have on this show. Of course, we had Brandy and Dr. Conger from yesterday, but we couldn't do a show without Lee Bond, who's been such a great friend of this show. Singing River Health System has done a great job responding to the COVID situation, and he's had such a practical view toward this. We've asked Lee to join us, and he's also going to be introducing as well some of his team members. And we're all four of us are going to be, or five of us actually, going to be looking back and talking about, what's this last year been like and what are we grateful for? So, Lee, how you doing this morning, buddy?
I'm doing great, Ricky. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
It's great to have you, man. There is a lot. I mean, look, it's been a busy year, but it seems that every time you and I talk, we never lose sight of, or you never lose sight of having gratitude for the people that surround you. I mean, you're a lucky man, aren't you?
I am blessed. I tell people all the time I'm a common man at an extraordinary place with extraordinary people, and I'm extraordinarily blessed. That's the biggest strength. When we say Singing River Strong, it's about the team, and you'll get to meet a couple of them, just a few of them in a minute. But that's what pulled us through, their grit and resolve, and it's been inspiring to work with these people. And you talk about gratitude, and we have a whole list of, we call it our silver linings list. And one of them is you really see what people are made of during tough times. You find out, really what drives someone. And so it's been tough, and there's been lost battles, but I feel like we've won the war against COVID, and we've still got some fighting to do, certainly. But I feel like it's a day of new hope. We've got victory is within sight. And that's a good feeling.
Hey, one other thing before we move to your team and introduce them. One of the things I'm thankful for is you, not just because of your leadership of the hospital system, not just because of your leadership in the community, but your friendship to me. We've stayed in touch. You've been on the show a bunch of times. We stay in touch through social media. But the things that you say when we're together are sort of profound to me. And they're things that I repeat often. One of them, for example, is that it was incredibly important for us to balance the economy with managing COVID, that finding a way to keep our economy productive and keeping people safe were really important, that we couldn't do one or the other. Those are not mutually exclusive realities. And the thing that you pointed out is that, U.S. is a productive country. And that if we don't remain a productive country, we don't keep our economy going, the kind of problems that will emanate from that are much greater than the kind of issues that we're dealing with COVID. So we had to find that balance. You've had such a practical mindset about that, haven't you?
We have tried to. You got to find the balance. I'd say common sense has sort of become uncommon. In fact, I'll go back to that in our little lookbook, the Charles Dickens quote. When people ask me about the year, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, and it was a season of light, a season of darkness, but the spring of hope. And in that, he talks about how, really common sense and the whole spectrum of where people can be is all over the board. We got to find that balance. We've got to find instead of being Democrat and Republican, we got to be human. We've got to try to focus on what's going to put us in the best place. We have to have our economy. We can't shut down every business, but we also have to exercise prudence. And that's sort of what was lost a little bit when we talk about the age of foolishness. There was a lot of foolishness that happened during this pandemic, but there was a lot of good too, and ultimately we're going to come out on the other side of it.
There's no doubt about it. So why don't we do this? Let's introduce Jenny and Heather and Dr. Roth, and we'll bring them into the conversation.
So that'd be great. Happy to do that. So Dr. Roth's our Chief Medical Officer, and what I love about him is typically a Chief Medical Officer spends most of their time in their office. Dr. Roth is still a doctor. He still wears that stethoscope around his neck. And interestingly, during COVID, what I saw was, how we all try to lead. We never ask anyone to do something we wouldn't do ourselves. And when people had to be intubated or extubated, Dr. Roth, though it was not his specific job duty, he would go there because people were scared at first of, COVID. And he had no fear, went straight to the front line, and the nurses saw him, and that inspired them. And then Heather actually was handling things like risk and education and other things in the nursing department. And one thing I'm real proud of there is she started, before it was even a word, before it was even talked about, we started contact tracing. We believe that helped us slow the spread and beat the curve. And then Jenny, also a nurse here at Singing River Gulfport, was right there on the front line with her frontline nurses doing the things that they were doing. And that's what you saw is people that were in management positions doing frontline jobs. And I love that, real servant leadership. But maybe we start with Dr. Roth, and he can tell you a little bit about, if you would, Dr. Roth, about what it was like in those days of fighting COVID. Right there, you were right there donning and doffing your PPE and really saving people's lives every day with your own hands.
Yeah, I'll say this much. It was scary because as a practicing physician, I always prided myself on doing the standard of care. And when we treated these patients early on, we didn't know what the standard of care was. Intubate, not intubate, hydroxychloroquine, no hydroxychloroquine, anticoagulation, blood thinners, end of life, hospice. And the word I use is fluid. It changed. The rules changed every week to 10 days. I'm really proud of how we handled it. I can't say enough about our facilities people who gave in to all my asks of negative pressure rooms and doing things that were really on the cutting edge. We were way ahead of the bell curve. Really proud of our critical care doctors. We met every week and did medical updates to order sets, giving our patients the best chance they had to recover. And I'll also say our bedside nurses, Lee has been in there with me. You can't lead from a desk. I still see patients, and I will see patients till the day I die or Lee fires me. It is about getting in front and leading by example. And when those nurses saw myself and Dr. Bobber and Dr. Iodice at the bedside, those first 6 or 7 months, we saw every single one of those patients ourselves. And it inspired our nurses that we can get through this together. I'll never forget, I told Lee that I got a call one time from a nursing home pretty much saying, we're overwhelmed and what can you do? And I remember calling Lee saying, Lee, I'd like to take these 20 patients because it's the right thing to do. And he said, then why'd you ask the question? Just do the right thing in the community. It was a burden for us, but man, we shut that and spread down that specific nursing home. And I'm really proud that our administration had the vision to say yes to that. I think a lot of places would have said no. I'm proud that we said yes. The last thing I'll leave you with is in our ICU, we made a promise to our families that if someone was going to die of this disease, they would not die alone and they would not suffer. And our nurses did a great job of fulfilling that promise to our community, and it made me very proud.
Dr. Roth, that's one of the things that I have focused on more as we look back thinking about gratitude, and that is that it's easy for people to forget those early days. In the early days, everyone's belief is that COVID was a death sentence. There was so much we didn't know about it. There was so much fear being around people who had COVID. And so this notion of you leading by example, by sort of donning the PPE and doing the things that you did to show people that if you do this and follow the protocols appropriately, you can remain safe and you can provide care. But one of the things we forgot about, and I think too many people forget about, is the number of people who would have died alone because loved ones couldn't be there with them, had it not been, to a large extent, the nurses that surrounded them. I bet you saw some heroes in that process, didn't you?
Dozens and dozens. I could go on about a respiratory therapist and tell you anecdotal stories of beautiful endings for these people, a lot of time via FaceTime for their family. They were positive, but they were vulnerable on dialysis and they couldn't come in. And there's several pictures that Lee has shared with our folks of nurses at the end of a certain shift, just with their hands over their head. I will tell you, there is a such thing as a beautiful death, and we hosted a lot of those where their family could be there in PPE if they were healthy enough. If they couldn't, we reassured them and held their hands and prayed with them. It made for long days, but I went home and it made me thankful of where I work and who I work with.
A beautiful day.
Why don't you get Jenny to share a little bit about her perspective from the nursing front line, because it's similar to what Dr. Roth experienced. But Jenny, share with him a little bit about maybe some of the challenges you faced in the early days, but also some of the things you were grateful for about the team.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. So early on, nurses were terrified, of course, like the rest of the world. So how do you get through that? How do you make them feel comfortable and confident in the journey that they're about to make? So we were fortunate to have so much education given to us. And like Dr. Roth said, it's fluid. Every day it changes. And so, of course, my job in that detail early on is to get the information to the nurses.
Hey, Jenny, why don't we do this?
Yes.
I don't want to, I'm sorry to cut you off. We're coming to the end of this segment.
Okay.
We'll pick up right there when we come back, and we'll continue to hear your story about, the amazing heroes that you saw in action and on this day of gratitude here on Super Talk. We'll be back.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. Super Talk, Mississippi. 106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We're having a day of gratitude here on SuperTalk, and I am honored to have the Chief Executive Officer for Singing River Health System, Lee Bond, just a great friend. Two RNs, Jenny Vircher and Heather Riley, and Dr. Randy Roth, who's actually the Chief Medical Officer for Singing River Health System. It's great to have all of you here. So when we went to break, though, Jenny, you were beginning to sort of zero in on what you've observed in these days of COVID. So just continue where you left off.
Thank you. So getting the communications to our nurses was difficult in the beginning to make them feel comfortable and confident in the care that they need to provide. They were scared. The patients were scared. I mean, we all were. So with all the education that was given to us, we were able to have daily huddles, sometimes 20 times a day, as the information changed so fast, so that our nurses would feel comfortable and confident in the care that they needed to provide. So what makes me so extremely proud of some of the team is we took nurses who didn't feel equipped or qualified or brand new nurses and really gave them the tools that they needed and the confidence to be able to make their patients feel safe and secure and well cared for. It was scary in the beginning, but I've talked to so many of them recently who said that they're so thankful for the opportunity just to have gone through this. It's something that they could never have imagined in a million years, and that has made them better people to have helped others get through it. So I'm very proud to be able to hear that from my nurses.
Ricky, one thing that I think is special about nurses, you've got to really have that heart and soul to be able to want to do that and take care of other people. The selflessness is something that I saw and am thankful for. Jenny's team, the nurses up there on the medical surgical units and in the ICU are the type of people that, I mean, they put others first. That's what they do. And Heather actually experienced that at other properties too. And Heather, if you would share just a little bit about how in the early stages, before anyone really knew what contact tracing was, tell us a little bit about how you put together a team basically that did that and how it helped us a little bit.
So since this is about thankfulness, I would start out by saying, and I would say it whether Lee or Dr. Roth were here, but thankful for the leadership that you guys showed at the beginning of this. Nobody knew how long it was going to be. We were on daily calls, even on Saturdays and Sundays with you guys, going down a list of, it felt like 100 things sometimes. But if we wouldn't have done that, where would we have been? And the days leading up to the contact tracing, I can remember Lee saying, we can't let one person not one person can fall through the cracks. I mean, we have to make sure everybody, it's almost like no child left behind in school. And, I remember him saying that for 2 or 3 days in a row. And then we started talking about contact tracing, and I'm pretty sure it was on the weekend. I can't remember if it was a Saturday or Sunday. And he's like, okay, who's going to do this? Who's going to take this? Who's going to lead this? And I was like, of course I'm on the phone, but I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do it. He's like, yes, you got it. And within 24 hours, on that next Monday, we were calling patients and doing the contact tracing the best we knew how with the information that we had, because we knew that the State Department of Health just did not have the resources to do so. And it could take some time. So, thankful for the other leaders who provided staff to me so we could make those calls. And just going through that process of talking to those people, like, what do you need? I can remember there was a lady who did not speak English, so we had to get a translator, and then come to find out she had no supplies at home. So there were no thermometers, right? Thermometers were gone out of everywhere. So I went to the house and got a thermometer, and then we called our foundation, and they took diapers and food, just to see the way that people pulled together for other human beings. It was honestly just amazing.
One of the things, Heather, that I talk about a lot is, the older George Bush's 1,000 points of light. It takes 1,000 points of light to make a community tick. And so many people coming to the forefront, finding ways to fill the gaps. That's what makes a great community. And when you have a situation like COVID, you see all those dots start to connect, and you start to appreciate how many people are willing to step forward when the going gets tough. Lee, when you're listening to Dr. Roth and Jenny and Heather talk, I bet it conjures up all kinds of thoughts in your mind about those early days and the journey that you've been on.
Oh yeah, I mean, sometimes when they talk, I get emotional about it because I remember those days like it was yesterday. It was a tough year. I remember we worked literally I remember last Easter, we were like on our 35th day. We worked 40 days straight, literally. Our lab director, I remember having a 2-hour conversation with her on Easter Sunday, and people were just making sacrifices that were unbelievable. And it was inspiring. As Heather said, you really find out, you see the best of the best in people who have given their life to a life of service. And I really meant what I said. We actually, during one of those meetings, we would talk about a silver lining at the end of every meeting, and we came up with like 30-something silver linings that we found. People having a better awareness of what each other did. Respiratory therapists understanding the importance of environmental services and the different departments. Having more respect for each other and what they do. People being thankful that they had the care. Thankful for things like this country we live in, where we had dexamethasone or remdesivir, amivantamab, all those things, and the vaccines. I mean, just seeing everybody, not just locally, but in our country, really coming together. It was tough hearing the vitriol and the negative folks, but in our space, we focused on the positives. And I think that's why we pulled through. We ended up, at times, we had over 90 patients at a time, our 3 hospitals, more than really any hospitals in the region. And that's because we had people that were willing to, be fearless warriors on the front line. But it was a very tough time. It was also a very inspiring time.
So, Dr. Roth, as you listen to Lee and then Jenny and Heather talk, I bet thoughts are also, going through your mind. What are you thinking?
It's almost a blur. And to Lee's point, I think I went about 96 straight days where I at least saw 10 or more COVID patients. I'm a lot better doctor now than I was a year ago. I'm thankful for that. I never thought when I was in medical school and residency that I would ever have to endure something like this. I'm better for it. I'm a better person. I'm a better Christian. I'm a better parent, a better doc. We come up on Easter, and I'll share one quick anecdotal story that was very moving to me. When I had Lee always wanted to be aware of when I would extubate somebody for end of life. And I did this on a certain patient, and the wife of the patient said, "Do you think you could get him communion immediately after you extubate him?" So Easter Sunday is a pretty busy day in most churches, although they were all virtual. So I called a pastor that I'm good friends with, and he not only came and brought him communion, he gowned up and put PP on and exposed himself and distributed communion to this patient 22 minutes before they passed. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful sight. Sad, but beautiful. And I'm thankful to having witnessed that, for that pastor and priest to come do that. It's very moving to me as we approach Easter.
Well, I mean, when you talk, Dr. Roth, it's a great reminder of what you guys had to go through. But as all of you talk, it's a great reminder of the teamwork that it takes. And I can't help but think about being publisher of the Sun Herald after Hurricane Katrina. I remember same kind of meetings. But the difference between Katrina and this is that Katrina sort of came and went. And this was a hurricane that came and didn't leave. It just stayed on us. And you had to operate in those like really challenging conditions. And you find out when the going gets tough, you really find out what people are made of. You find out what your cohorts are made of. You find out what yourself is made of. That if we're honest, we never arrive, man. Life is a journey of self-discovery. And for everything that we experience, we get the opportunity to get better. And in many cases, more spiritual. And this is certainly one of those moments. What are you thinking, Lee?
Well, I'm thinking that they're made out of steel. And my dad has a saying, he used to say, you got to be tough as a light or not. And we did find out people, their toughness. We coined the term Singing River Strong. It sort of became our our thing, because you had to be not just physically tough, but the mental toughness that it took was tremendous. So I think they're made of steel, these people you're talking to, along with the people that they work with. And it's truly been something that's been the challenge of our lifetime, but also the inspiration of seeing how awesome these folks are. And that's, they believe in quality, and that's why we've got an A rating. And I wouldn't work with anybody else in the world than this team right here. Very proud of them.
When the going gets tough, the tough get going, and that's what we experienced here in this conversation today. And we also experienced a lot of gratefulness. I love that the whole notion, the discovery, not that you didn't know it going in it, but when you're in the moment, you appreciate it more, that how much a team comes together, and when a team comes together, what they can accomplish together. It's just an incredible story. I thank all of you for joining me today. Dr. Roth, it's been a pleasure to meet you. Jenny and Heather, thank you very much for your leadership and what you've provided. And Lee, thank you for your great friendship. And I appreciate you joining us on this day of gratitude here on SuperTalk.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. You bet. Y'all have a great day. And when we come back, we have Jeff Duncan from The Athletic, and we're going to talk about our gratitude for sports during these times of challenges. We'll be back after this.
Subscribe for free to the Coast View podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking very hard-to-find PPE items to make our community a safer place. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. They were even sending thousands of dollars of PPE supplies free to local schools in need with help from other local business leaders. The next time your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider a local company that supports your ball teams, cheerleaders, and area homeless. Consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply, the local guys that keep your prices fair, your service and selection excellent, and your health our business. Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
Hey, South Mississippi, the future has arrived. It's 2021, and at J. Allen Toyota, we're here to serve you. Want to let you know that we have Allen's lifetime warranty on every new Toyota we sell. That also comes with Toyota Care. That's 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We have a great rental department. Our service department's ready to take care of your current vehicle. We're rolling out J. Allen certified pre-owned for 2021. You got to come to I-10 exit 38 right here in Gulfport. You're going to love what we have to offer. When you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. We got to talk Jimmy Buffett.
One day at breakfast, he says, I started a new song. He says, about a night and a day in Key West, I played a bar and I got drunk, and coming home, I stepped out of my flip-flop, and I just kept going. I stepped on a beer can, and The next morning I'm up and I'm hungover and I'm trying to make a margarita. I got some shrimp boiling. I can't find the salt. I said, Jimmy, I kind of like this. And he said, yeah, I think I'll call it Margaritaville.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on your local SuperTalk Mississippi station and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show. Every day, we're driving the debate in America with the fastest moving, hardest hitting, most comprehensive, fact-based commentary on the radio. We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth. Our show is a meeting place of ideas. We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On Super Talk, Mississippi. Whether you're brand new to the DIY craze or a seasoned veteran, the Handyman Show has something for you. Buddy Slowick shares tips and tricks on everything from odd jobs to complete build-outs, from small home repairs to serious construction. So no matter if you're at the master carpenter level or not quite sure how to use a level, the Handyman Show answers your questions with a healthy dose of humor and some great music too. Saturdays, 10 to noon on Super Talk Mississippi and on Super Talk TV. Super Talk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Mathews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. That was such an amazing conversation with Lee Bond and his team, the chief executive officer for Singing River Health Systems. You think about the role that the medical community has played during the days of the pandemic. Has just been truly remarkable. And you think about how the community had to come together, how their community, the medical community, and every walk of life, how the dots had to connect and the team had to work together. It really is extraordinary what they did. And comes back to the point that I made about gratitude. It's not happiness that brings us gratitude. It's gratitude that brings us happiness. And it makes you happy to live in a country where so many people are willing to kind of help their neighbor, and live in a place like coastal Mississippi or in this Gulf region where so many people, because of the adversity we face, had to come to the aid of one another during difficult times. And we've seen that during the pandemic. We're going to shift gears now. And speaking of gratitude, I'm lucky to have a friend like Jeff Duncan who joins me every Friday. Jeff is a columnist and writer for The Athletic. He's covered the Saints more than anyone else on earth, but he's just a sports guy. He really enjoys sports, and he's a really good friend of this show. And I'm grateful that I have you to connect with every Friday, buddy. How you doing?
Doing great, Ricky. Grateful to be on the program. I love it every week. And it's great to have a touchstone over in the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I've really come to appreciate that part of our area a lot. I think I've told you many times how much I love it over there. So I love this connection, and I can't spend enough time over there. I find myself drawn to, when can I get back over, to that area during these days in New Orleans.
Yeah, well, I'll say something about that actually here in just a second, but I wanted to share this with you. This is from Brian Caldwell. He's the director of athletics at the Gulfport School District. He wrote me a note and talked about his 4-mile walk every day listening to Coast View, and he was explaining what it meant to him. But he said this: as a lifelong Saints fan, the Jeff Duncan segments are a highlight. And, I hear that a lot. And I know that you got an opportunity to sort of see not only how the Saints kind of connect to this place, but how people appreciate you when you did your book signing over at the Island View Casino. It was great to see that for yourself, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a special night. The people over at the Island View Casino put on a great event. I think I was there over 2 hours, Ricky, and it flew by because I met so many great people, had so many fun, interesting conversations. You see the passion of Saints fans I mean, that's a stronghold over there, as you know. The Saints are beloved. And so it was really fun to get a chance to talk to people and engage in some of their favorite stories that they've read. You just really realize the impact you have as a journalist. Sometimes it can be lost on us when we're working in our cubicles, staring at our screens, that there is a connection out there with the public. And it's nice to get out and have a chance to visit with people and talk to them face to face as opposed to, through a text.
Hey, one other thing about your time over here in Hancock County or over, Pass Christian area, I had a conversation with Anthony Wilson, who is the chief executive officer for Mississippi Power Company. And one of the things we were just talking about, the recovery of Mississippi and coastal Mississippi, and especially Hancock County. He said that Hancock County in so many ways is sort of leading the way. And I think the reason why is because it's always been this sort of symbiotic relationship with New Orleans. I mean, it's always just this relationship. And while New Orleans was locked down, more people from New Orleans were coming over and enjoying a community that's really emerged since Hurricane Katrina in ways that maybe they haven't before, or maybe being introduced to Hancock County in ways they haven't been introduced to it before. But there is this kind of like, it's almost like there's not a state line. I mean, there's just, it's almost like an extension of New Orleans in a lot of ways. And you've fallen in love with it, haven't you?
Yeah, I find that the SEC West footprint is kind of one big community, right? I mean, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. I guess we have to throw Texas and Arkansas in there now, but I feel like those three states are all very similar and all have their unique aspects and their distinctive aspects, but just good people. It reminds me a lot of when I grew up in Kentucky. I mean, my family was in Louisville, Ricky, but my extended family was all out in rural Kentucky, out in the Lexington, Frankfort area. So when I come over to Bay St. Louis or to Biloxi, Gulfport, get around those areas, it reminds me a lot of home. And I think that's why I'm so drawn to it. Good people, family-oriented, faith-oriented people. And then you've got this other thing that we didn't have in Kentucky, which is a beautiful ocean. So yeah. That's one thing that I think is special about living down here. We're right on the water, but we've got so many different places that we can go and experience. It's just a unique place in America.
I'm very thankful for that. This coastal environment and the fact that you can spread out, and that's one of the reasons actually why our tourism has recovered so quickly, is because the majority of the people who visited here by car. During pandemic, people felt safe in their car. So places like coastal Mississippi, where they could come sit on the beach or enjoy one of our casinos or eat at a great meal, walk one of our walkable communities, that has been sort of our claim to fame in the recovery of the economy here in this pandemic moment. So there's a lot to be thankful for. But the role that sports has played in this pandemic has been can't be. I mean, you've always said this, that sports is a way to sort of get away from our lives. It's a break that we can take, and that has certainly been true during the pandemic, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's very much an escape, I think, for most people. We've seen that here in the Gulf Coast after Hurricane Katrina, also after some of the other big storms we've had. It's a way to kind of distract yourself from the drudgery of maybe recovery, or in this case, the pandemic, which is obviously an unprecedented situation, mentally challenging and physically challenging for everyone involved. It's nice to have sports to kind of entertain you for a few hours, get your mind off things, and escape a little bit. And I think at its core, that's what sports is. It's obviously very competitive athletically. It's a big business, but I think more than anything else, it's entertainment, and it's become that way in America. And I think it's served a vital role in our culture for many people during this unprecedented situation.
It has, and you think about all, whether it's college or whether it's NBA, whether it's the Saints or NFL, they've all done their heavy lifting. But if you think about when they started sort of really engaging, we're going to try to find a way to to do the NFL in a safe way. You go back to the beginning. In the beginning of the pandemic, there was so much we didn't know. I mean, it was almost a death sentence if you got COVID, and we were scared of it. There were a lot of unknowns, but the NFL really kind of led the way in figuring out how to do this in a safe way. The NBA had their bubble, but the Saints and the NFL did it in a very unique way. And I remember the early conversations we had when they could literally, determine where you were standing on the field as a reporter and whether you were too close to another person or not. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, they had a unique challenge because they weren't going to be able to have a bubble situation. So they really had to they were kind of sailing uncharted waters here as a league. And I think they tapped into their vast resources, obviously used a lot of top medical advisors. They did their homework and preparation for this, and I think they did an excellent job. I mean, they really only had some minor hiccups along the way. They obviously had some infections to deal with and postponements, but they didn't lose any games in the schedule, and for the most part, I think managed it about as well as anybody, maybe even surpassed expectations, considering they had to do this in all these different cities across the country with different COVID restrictions and limitations and guidelines. And, I think the players would tell you that their experience was that the league cared most about their safety and health along with their family members. And there were a lot of sacrifices involved in that from the top on down. I mean, the league took a hit financially. Like, they're not hurting. They're not going to have to walk the streets with a tin can, but they lost a lot of money. I know the Saints in particular are looking at, I think, around $130 million in lost revenue from this past season. So they're not immune to the difficulties as a business that all of us have experienced around the country.
Well, here's the thing that people need to think about, that there were a lot of people who were impacted by not having games. I'm just thinking about vendors and, all the people who service these large crowds of people and whatever. But I also think about people like you, Jeff. You're gainfully employed by The Athletic, and you had something to write about. I mean, can you imagine if professional sports had been shut down, what the reverberating effect would have been on your industry specifically?
Well, I feel very grateful to work at a place like The Athletic. I mean, our founders and CEO, Adam Hansman and Alex Mather, have just been tremendous leaders during this time. We did take a little bit, I think, across the board, some pay cuts to our salaries, but that was reinstated very quickly after a few months. And then they actually even restored back to our normal salaries and gave us bonuses in the end. That's just unheard of in this time. So I feel very fortunate to be at a company led by people like that. And also they understood during this time, Ricky, that it's all about family and your health and safety. And they made that our top priority, not work. And that's very refreshing.
This is Jeff Duncan from The Athletic. When we come back, we'll finish our conversation about gratitude, and we'll sort of review some of the hot news items as it relates to the Saints. A lot going on there. We'll be back after this break.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had two different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Put, come on, it's time for me to go beat Elvis." And he stood up, and a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. "Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?"
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, "Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi" at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have my friend Jeff Duncan from The Athletic joining us now. And hey, listen, before we sort of close the chapter on gratitude, anything else you want to say about that, buddy?
Well, no, I think we covered a lot of ground, but I think we should all be grateful to the healthcare workers in America, the people that sacrificed, really put their lives on the line to help others in this unprecedented situation. And, it was extraordinary what people did. And also, I think small business owners, I've talked to a lot of them, not just people in the restaurant industry, but the small business owners in my uptown neighborhood who basically had to lay off staff, and it was all hands on deck with the family trying to keep their businesses afloat. And hopefully there's some relief on the way. It sounds like there is for a lot of people, because they help make our lives normal during this very abnormal
They
time.
really do. And we're going to be spending more time on this as in the weeks coming. But so there's this restaurant package that should help them, but now they're having a hard time hiring people.
Yep.
So, gosh darn, man, they need to see the light at the end of the tunnel themselves. But hey, listen, there's been the recent news with the Pelicans, and there's also some news with the Saints. We'll start with the Saints. What's the latest, and kind of cover some of the highlights.
Well, the Saints brass right now is deep in NFL draft preparations. So Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton have been making the rounds along with Jeff Ireland, the personnel director, and all these pro days are out. I mean, I know they were at the University of Alabama this week. A number of prospects. Our latest big board at The Athletic, Ricky, has the 100 top prospects in the draft. Listen to this. Dane Brugler, who does great work for us analyzing these draft prospects, the top 33 players in this draft, 8 of them are from Alabama. I mean, that's crazy. From one team. Just shows you how dominant they were this year and how talented they were. So I know Loomis and Ireland and Payton were there. They also were at LSU on Wednesday to see, their top prospects. So they're busy. They're flying around the country going to these draft workouts, trying to get ready for what's going to be a very busy draft for the Saints. I mean, they started it with about 4 draft picks. Now they're up to, I think, 8 or 7 or 8. I can't remember exactly the number. They've got way more draft picks now thanks to the compensatory picks they won. So this is a big draft, considering it's the first of the post-Drew Brees era. I really believe it's critical for them to hit on this draft. They're not going to have another 2017-like draft. No, I don't think that'll happen again, but they need to be very successful. They can't afford many misses with where they're at in the trajectory of the roster.
And you still, strongly believe that what we're going to be seeing, especially as it relates to the offense, is a retooling of the offense, keying up on speed, and whether whoever the quarterback is, it's just going to be a different kind of an offense, and still see signs and signals of all of that, right?
Yeah, and look, it's going to be Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. Like I've said all along, I mean, it's fun to envision Russell Wilson playing for the Saints, but that just wasn't the reality. I mean, they're very high on both these guys. The things I've heard from Jameis Winston in these interviews, he's been making the media rounds, very, very impressive. Now, we're going to see if it plays out on the field. I think one thing to talk about it, another thing to be able to do it. I always compare the quarterback position to a fighter pilot. It's one thing to say you can handle that stress and all that pressure, but it's another thing to be in the cockpit when you're in a firefight. We're going to find out about Jameis Winston because he's saying all the right things right now, and you have to be encouraged by his attitude and demeanor. And I think he has a keen understanding that he's at a crossroads in his career, and he's got a great opportunity here. So I'm eager to see this competition play out on the field this fall.
Okay, so you and I have been we've been really focused on the Pelicans, particularly as it relates to Zion, but we also had several shows where we talked about failures at defense. Now, you'll go back the last 5 games. The Pelicans are 4-1 the last 5 games. And it does appear that the defense is the thing that's kind of keeping them in the game. So they've made some key moves. Why don't you review for us the moves that they made and what's making a difference now?
Well, I think that win against Boston Monday night was really a growth moment for this team. It looked like it was slipping away from them again. Boston went on this furious run, got the game tied, and the Pelicans for the first time didn't wilt. They showed some grit and mental toughness. And I think that was a big step for them in the growth of this team and the maturation of this young team. They're learning how to win, Ricky. I mean, they've got so many young players and trying to define their roles and figure out what works and what doesn't work. The coaching staff's also trying to learn all this on the fly. This is a unique season. They condensed it down into 5.5 months. They're playing almost every other day, so there's not a lot of time during the season to make corrections. But what they have done is they've started leaning more on 2 things. One, offensively, they're playing through Zion Williamson. He was a point guard. It's hard to believe when you look at him now, but he was a point guard in high school. So he can feed and dish like nobody we've ever seen in that size body. And the offense has taken off. They're really among the most explosive, high-scoring offenses in the league. And then defensively, they started leaning into their young players like Jackson Hayes, Kyra Lewis from Alabama, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And those young athletes are starting to find their legs, figure the game out, and they've added to the defensive end of the court. The last 5 or 6 games, they're ranked in the top 10 in a lot of defensive categories. And I think that's what's led to this success on the court.
You can see it. You can definitely see it. I wish we had more time together, Jeff, but it's been great to visit with you and look back and with some gratitude. And I appreciate your commitment to Coast View and your friendship. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and look forward to next week, Ricky.
You bet. Take care and have a great weekend.